Teachers of Reddit, what's the most trashy NSW story you heard from your students about their parents? Middle son informed his kindergarten teacher that I was growing grass in the house. I was, like, lawn grass, not marijuana, in a large tray for my guinea pigs. I got to meet a cop and a social worker. We were all very amused. My student's older sister had just had a C-section after having a baby. She's 20. His father hates her and let his dog attack her. She had torn stitches, was kicked out of their house, along with her son, and no place to go right before Christmas. My student spent winter break trying to talk his mom into letting him and his sister move in with her. She said no because she has a new family. I once taught a girl, 9 at the time, who was absent on the Monday and went back on the Tuesday, told me she had been sick from drinking mum's special drinks. After some digging, we discovered her stepdad, a known addict, had tried to commit suicide on the Friday evening, failed, and then had a second lease on life, which gave him the idea to host an impromptu all-night party on the Saturday. Girl and younger sister were apparently as much part of the party as everyone else, and had essentially hoovered up all of the half-finished booze they found left unattended and got smashed. Hence the hangover on the Monday. Bonus: the mother has since left the stepdad and is now dating her cousin. He sometimes arrives to pick up the children without a shirt on. I gave a lesson about methamphetamine in a health class I was teaching. I had little anonymous exit slips for kids to fill out with lingering questions and feedback. One kid wrote, "Now I understand why my stepdad acts the way he does." My mom was a teacher and a 4th grader came up to her when it was time for parent-teacher meetings. "Kid, I just wanted to tell you that my mom is kind of weird." "My mom, everybody's a little weird. I'm sure she'll be fine." "Kid, she has her nipples pierced and wears a chain between them." And my mom said it was obvious. When I was a senior in high school, we did a little project with kindergartners. Before we started, the teacher asks everyone how their weekend was, and one of the students tells the room about this cool game his uncle took him to where they get chickens to fight each other. 5 minutes later the principal takes him away. That was 10 years ago. I have no clue what happened afterwards. My mom works at home. Her clients come to visit her there. Turns out she was RH and was operating out of the bedroom while her oldest child watched the younger ones in the living room. I had the opposite of this. Whilst in primary school, my friend told a teacher that her mum works from home and that men come to visit her. Obviously concerned that my friend's mum was a prostitute, this led to the teacher calling my friend's home to check in with the mum. Turns out her mum is just a masseuse and was absolutely mortified. I volunteered at my son's preschool. The first day each kid was asked to say something about themselves. For example, my son said he likes basketball. The next boy said, "My older sister has loose morals." The teacher asks the lad if he is sure. Not only is he sure, but his mom is taking her to see Dr. Jones about it. When his mom gets him, she explained that Dr. Jones is a dentist. This boy's sister has loose molars. A young teen boy who said the only math he needs to know is how to weigh drugs correctly to be like his dad. That made me sad. Not a teacher, but as a student in the 5th grade, our teacher told us that adults who do drugs can sometimes become so addicted they are not able to pay for their house and then they lose the house. A classmate raised her hand and said, "That's what happened to my dad." The teacher responded, "Oh Christy honey, that wasn't because he was on drugs. He just had a hard time with the bills." Christy's response, "No, he was on drugs." Several seconds of silence were followed by the continuation of the math lesson. Christy dropping some truth. Good for Christy. Well, I had a student with 17 half siblings, 8 on mom's side, 9 on dad's, none of which were full siblings. Age range was something like 45 down to 3 months. My wife's the teacher, but I was there for this event. Basically, I was chaperoning a field trip for her class and was there for student drop-off. One of the moms came into the room wearing a sweatsuit with the top unzipped and lingerie under it. Not the ambiguous is it or isn't lingerie, but see-through mesh. I can see her breasts and nipples clearly. Lingerie. My mother is a teacher and she came home one day and told me a story about how in a kindergarten class they were seeing if a plant would grow better in the sunlight or in the dark. One kid said that the plant in the dark would grow better, and when they asked him why, he said, "My parents grow big plants in the closet." As it turns out, the parents were illegally growing marijuana. Had a girl say on the first day that she was named after her dad's ex because her mom was tired of seeing the ex's name tattooed on her dad's chest and wanted to associate the tattoo with something else. Modern problems require modern solutions. In grade 3, my son told his teacher one Monday that his dad was doing joints all weekend, and he helped. Of course the teacher asked him to explain himself. You know, doing joints. It was really messy though and mommy told him I shouldn't help. Teacher continues questioning, and finally figured out that my joints were made of wood. I had been doing some woodworking that weekend, and we were joining 2 pieces of wood with a biscuit joiner, and he helped me with the glue up, which somehow in an 8-year-old's mind became doing joints. Parent-teacher night was pretty hilarious. My cousin who's a teacher told me this one. A few years ago she was teaching at a summer school for underprivileged kids to keep them off the streets and out of trouble. One day, one of the younger girls, 7 or 8 years old, was crying, so she naturally went up and asked her what's wrong. Miss, that boy over there keeps saying my mum's a prostitute. Don't listen to him. He's making it up just to be mean. No miss, she is a prostitute, but he doesn't have to keep saying it. Needless to say she was gobsmacked, just like everyone else she tells the story to. I'm not a teacher but in my sophomore year of high school I passed by a girl and all I heard her say was me and my dad fricked last night. I assigned an assignment where students had to select a piece of music that they thought conveyed mourning or sadness. They then had to write a couple sentences on it explaining how it conveyed that emotion. One of my students misunderstood the assignment and proceeded to write 2 pages about how the song conveys sadness because it reminds them about their drug addict mother who left them and has been in and out of their life because she keeps choosing the drugs over the kids. It was really sad. This kid isn't a great student and it was sobering to see what is affecting them at home to influence their behavior at school. Not a teacher, but I bet my old teacher would place this here. Circa 1993, a classmate in 3rd grade. She was tragically and blatantly neglected by her family and severely behind in school, yet had the biggest heart ever. She smelled terrible, was always filthy, and could barely read. We all knew she had a crap life and still always tried to be decent to her. It was Halloween and as per usual, all the kids were bringing in candy to hand out, including our not so fortunate classmate, which was a shocker to most of us as we were aware of her family's financial state. So we all finish up with passing out our candy and we're allowed to enjoy some of it, including the milk duds our classmate so graciously shared. And then she proclaimed, "Oh yeah, me and my uncle really lucked out while dumpster diving this week when we found these." I don't remember seeing much of her after that. Fast forward to maybe 3 years later. Happened to see the old classmate at the local Halloween parade, wearing a nice, clean, warm coat, looking very happy and very healthy, and she introduced me to her foster family. I was pretty happy for that kid, being a kid myself, cause her parents sucked. I'm a daycare teacher. New kid, 4 years old, talking to me as I'm getting snacks ready. She mentions that she misses her mom. Dad dropped her off and I hadn't met mom. Me, is mom at work? For yo, number. Me, no, where is she? For you casually shrugs. Oh, you know, doing drugs. Then a few weeks later she's talking to me again. For yo, I have a sister. She's 5. Me, oh, does she live with you and dad or with your mom? For yo, she used to live with mom, then mom called CPS to take her away. Had one student that was extremely smart but she did have problems with ADHD. The mother would regularly sell her daughter's prescription medication rather than giving it to her daughter. Had another parent when confronted about her child stealing a pair of shoes flatly stated, "Who wouldn't steal a pair of shoes that were just sitting on the bench with no one watching them?" She just couldn't process that someone might look at the shoes and not take them. I dated a girl who worked at a daycare. She came home all upset one day and told me this story. They'd caught a little boy who had taken off his belt and wrapped it around his arm. When they asked him what he was doing, he started slapping his arm and said he was looking for a good one. He was pantomiming his parents' search for a good vein in which to inject drugs. My co-worker had a student who brought a ball gag in his backpack. He had no idea what it was. She was grateful the parents' answering machine picked up instead of having a conversation. She simply said, "Name of kid," brought something in his backpack that he probably had no permission to bring. Not a teacher but worked in a school during college. One girl told me that her parents wanted to move to Florida, so I asked if she wanted to or had ever been. She said no and said her parents went to visit and see if there was a place they liked. So I asked her when did her parents go and what did they think find. She said, no, they are there now and have been for 2 weeks. Oh, so who's watching you while they're away? She said nobody, I'm home alone. This was an 11-year-old girl. My girlfriend is a primary school teacher who had a child tell her just before Christmas that his dad grows Christmas trees in the spare bedroom. Impressive to fit a Christmas tree orchard in the house. I had a kid. His dad started giving him booze around 8, smoking weed with him around 10, and at 13 they smoked some crack together. Mum was over this crap, so she split and married another dude. This guy was a raging alcoholic piece of crap. One evening he rolls into the living room with a 12 gauge, puts it in his mouth and rapidly removes the back of his head with some 00 buckshot. He was 14, his sister 12 and they were sitting on the couch eating dinner. Kid still loves his mama. I think she makes poor decisions. Not a teacher but I'm sure there are teachers out there who tell this story of me. Most of this is a retelling from my mom though as I don't remember it much. In elementary school, not sure what grade age, we had Dad come in to talk about drugs and alcohol. Now I was a very naive child, my own doing. And after the meeting I went to my teacher bawling because I thought my mom was an alcoholic and was driving us to school drunk every day because she would always have a very large closed cup of what she called an adult drink. Said teacher took me to the principal's office and they called in my mom. At this point the school had already alternate authorities. No clue if it was cops or CPS, I just know some sort of authority was there to monitor. My mom comes in and they sit her down and bring up what I told her and said that they needed to open an investigation. My mom just starts hysterically laughing and they all get super pee off. She finally gets out that it's coffee. I ratted out what I thought was my alcoholic mom for her morning coffee habit. After minor digging they let her go and now it's a funny story my mom tells to embarrass me. I went through a few weeks of being convinced my parents were raging alcoholics because they had a couple glasses of wine every night. Probably after a drug education class like you. They're both teachers. Now that I'm also a teacher, I can't believe they were able to stop at 2 glasses per night. Not a teacher, but a former HS student. Parents of my classmate were mad at him to the point where they said you can find someplace else to live then for not sharing his girlfriend with his older brother. Last I saw, the two of them got married and his family was not at the wedding. Obligatory not a teacher and slightly off topic. Had a friend who was a teacher of young children. She had a mother come to her on the first day and tell her son wasn't potty trained. So if he needed to pee, my friend would have to hold his dong for him. My friend explained that that was inappropriate and she wouldn't be able to do that. Friend thought that was the end of it. But the next day, the mother comes back with a pair of chopsticks and tells my friend that seeing as she can't hold her son's dong with her hands, she could use the chopsticks to hold it and just keep the chopsticks in her desk drawer throughout the day. 1. Yuck. 2. WTF. Buddy of mine is a teacher coach. He told me this story. He was going to grad school to try to become a principal and would see a student of his at the same university he was at. He told me that this female student of his, once she was in college, told him a story about one of the coaches he was working with. This coach is an old guy in his mid-60s, never married, no kids, and has been coaching at this school for over 20 years. He keeps in good shape as he is a coach and doesn't actually teach anything other than gym football. When she was 16, she was hooking up with this old coach. Once she went over on a Saturday night and he was watching UFC. He said to give him a minute because he needed to pop some Viagra. They started attempting to hook up but he couldn't get it up. So he said hold on and walked out. She was waiting on his bed for about 20 minutes before walking out to his living room to find him naked on his recliner, drinking a beer and watching UFC. He said to her, "Oh, you're still here? Yeah, I can't get it up. Thought you figured that out. You can leave now because we ain't freaking tonight." But because he's got tenure and it's a small town that revolves around football, he is protected and untouchable because nobody would ever believe he would do something like that. My buddy has tried reporting it but it was swept under the rug and nothing was ever done because enough time has passed. I'll give the short version. Grandma is acting mom. Until recently kids, twins, Did not know this and thought she was actual mom and actual mom was sister, but is out of the kids' lives. Basically dumped them with grandma and left. Moved out of state. Dad is not in the picture. Didn't know he had kids. Found out after a chance drunken encounter with actual mom at a bar over Christmas a few years ago. He was a PCA and got himself placed as the family care person for his own kids. Not sure how all this works or what his role was. All without kids or grandma knowing he is dad. Dad and grandma hit it off and start dating. Soon moving in, all while getting paid. Mom comes back for surprise visit and sees kids with dad and comes unglued. Breaks the story to everyone. Grandma and dad don't bat an eye at this and continue dating. Mom gets upset and moves back home in another apartment right down the hall. About 6-8 months ago grandma gets a DUI. Mom fights for and wins custody back of kids. Dad breaks up with grandma and moves in and starts dating mom. Yes, I'm as confused as you are. There is so much more to the story but it would be a book if I tried to write it all. I work at a historical village. We were fixing things while tours were going on one day in a historical hotel. A room had iron bars to block the deck and a maid's outfit next to the wall. The old bed was chained together and I was zip tying a pipe to the wall. A kid shouted, "Hey, that almost looks like my mom's special room." He said, "Yeah, the door has bars in front of it. My mom has clothes just like that. She always keeps the old bed chained together and always has a zip tie on the dresser." His friend shouted out what he's really saying is he has a frick room in his basement. My student, 6, is cared for by his grandma. His grandma had a kid 1 year after he was born, so his uncle is younger than him. Grandma wants the uncle, 5, to be the man of the house, and my student says his uncle is in charge of discipline. This takes the form of the two of them always beating the crap out of each other and the grandma condoning it. Well, saying the uncle is always right and actively tells him to beat his nephew, my student. This is to the extent that my student has come to school with a concussion and vomited during class. Yes, services have been notified. Nothing has come of it yet. Not one of my students, but a student in another teacher's class in the same grade. Second, girl brings in cell phone with pictures of her mom giving blowjobs. Girl sneaks phone outside and shows her friends at recess. One of my students at the same school, at lunch he was demonstrating to his friends how to smoke. 8-year-old said he smoked pot with his grandma. Was substitute teacher. Girl asks, "So are you married?" Answer, "Yes." Girl replies, "I bet my mom is hotter than your wife. You should call her." Proceeds to write digits on the board. You have been visited by the Be Humble Be Stay Humble and Believe in Yourself. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.